This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Happy Monday, gang, and welcome into another live edition of C2C at Night, your late-night one-stop shop for a grand circle tour of the entire sports world, covering everything on the diamond, the gridiron, the hardwood floors of the NBA, the ice of the NHL, and starting this week, the pitches of Major League Soccer, and a boatload of other things on the Grand Circle Tour alongside that man, James Gonzales, up in Oceanside, California. Yours truly, Callan, McClurg, joining you here in San Diego. Mr. Gonzales, hope it was a great sports weekend, my friend. How's it hanging today? Good to see you, my friend. How we doing?
I'm doing well. I was trying to think for a sports weekend. Friday, I went out to San Diego Clipper game before they went out on the road. Watched a lot of college basketball, a lot of NBA basketball, and some spring training baseball. Getting in some hockey right now as LA is going to defeat Vegas 5-2 if it holds up. What else? Put in the work for the On Deck show coming up soon. All the spring training storylines. So
there's a lot of them.
Other from like actual work that I have, there was a lot of work put toward that as well. So it's going to be a fun show here on deck on all the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network show as well. It's going to be a lot of fun this week. A lot busy.
Yeah, a lot of business to attend to, folks. Same over here. Had a bit of a quiet weekend for the first time in quite a while. No games on Friday, no games on Saturday. Did go to one game on Sunday, which I'll allude to a little bit later in the show from Sunday. But now after a nice, refreshing weekend off, now I get body slammed by work Wednesday through Saturday this week. So you absolutely love that coming down the pipeline. But, of course, folks, here on C2C at Night, live via Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch, if you're joining us live at about 3 minutes after 10 o'clock on a Monday evening, February 24th. As always, we invite your input. Again, questions, comments, concerns, hot takes or cold takes, and infuriating takes, what have you. You can, of course, drop those in the live chat box. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that your commentary, like usual, is read live on the air here this evening. Of course, James, as we you kind of alluded to, my man, we are right now in the somewhat thick of things a little bit. Opening 2 weeks, roughly, of spring training games down in Florida and in Arizona. But, of course, James, the big talking point right now has been about the ABS, the right now automated balls and strikes system that is right now not going to be deployed into full usage by Major League Baseball this season, but is at least being tested by the Major League teams. And I believe roughly a good chunk, if not a high percentile of the ballparks, either in Florida or certain ballparks, too, in Arizona. I do know that the Padres and Mariners are utilizing it. Some teams are not doing so. And, of course, James, that kind of led me down a rabbit hole, though, that Terry Francona, the new manager of the Cincinnati Reds, actually told USA Today and The Athletic earlier on the weekend that the Reds will not use it because the system is, of course, not being used in the upcoming 2025 season. Francona told reporters on Friday that he does not want his big leaguers initiating the challenges because they won't have that option during the 2025 regular season. The league has been using spring training as basically a trial run this spring in which a pitcher, the catcher, or the batter only can call for a replay review of a umpire's called ball or called strike call they disagree with. The automatic balls and strikes, or ABS system, has been used right now across the minor leagues, and the challenge provision will be in place throughout the Class AAA level this spring, but its use in the majors is at least still 1 year away. When he was asked, though, Francona said, "I'm okay with seeing our younger kids do it because they've done it before. It is not a strategy for the MLB teams, so why should we work on it? I don't want to make a farce of anything, but we're here getting ready for a season, and that is not going to help us get ready," referring to the ABS system. Now, it should be mentioned, though, too, that not every spring training ballpark has access to the system. In Arizona, the 5 dueling team stadiums, including both the Reds and Guardians in Goodyear, have it. And in Florida, 8 ballparks are equipped with the technology as well at this time. So, James, I get, though, where Francona's coming from. Why have a guy like Elly De La Cruz, for example, do this in a spring training game when you know you will not have that at your disposal in roughly, I'd say, a month's time coming up on opening day, March 27th? And I also get, though, Francona's point. The young guys need to work on it because they will have the system, single A, double A, triple A, where they can get used to double tapping. So, James, before I get to my second part of my question here, your thoughts on Terry Francona saying, don't bother trying it out, telling his players to do so, because I think he's right, though, in a way. But also, I wonder, though, if this is maybe Francona just kind of wanting to say, stick to the way that the game's played right now, worry about this system later. But, James, your thoughts, first of all, about Francona telling his players, don't basically bother doing the ABS challenge system.
Okay, so Francona, we have to remember it's his first year with the Reds, getting back into managing after a year off. And I think he's always had a way of managing. He always likes old school type of games, so he's sticking with that with this rule for his team. But yeah, the younger guys that have been in the minors, they've been doing it since 23, 24. That I found out how long they've been doing it, so it's good for them. But he's just being real strict, and probably something I would do if I had, like the years on me to in managing or in the game. Just say, hey, focus on everything else that we can control that will happen, not something that will happen next year. Like you might not even be on the team next year or in the majors next year or in baseball next year. You never know what's going to happen. So just focus on what we have to do this year. And the Reds, they need some fine tuning, and I think Francona is the right guy for it. So it's all him just having control of everybody's mindset, saying focus on what, again, they can do and letting go of what they can't do until next year if it comes in. So I kind of applaud Francona because in every game I've seen it used that I've been watching.
Yeah, James, I think Francona's onto a great point for the established veterans like your Elly De La Cruz, for example, guys who've been around the block who, did not have that at their disposal several years ago. And I like, though, that Terry said, I want the younger kids to get used to it because they're going to probably be in AAA or in AA or in Class A, high A or low A, and, they can get used to tapping the hat, though. So now, James, it brings me, though, to part 2 of my question. General thoughts, general stance, I guess, on the ABS. Now, I know, though, James, that I can see, though, an argument of like, hey, we're making sports way too reliant on technology when it comes to, what we propose that the NFL should use a similar style to tennis, having an in and out for when the ball breaks the plane for a first down or a touchdown gets scored when you have all the dog pile of bodies around the football. Hockey has their replay system to review potential offsides before a goal gets scored or if the puck was over the goal line completely. Soccer has goal line technology in the World Cup. Over in Europe and other leagues have their systems. They have what they call VAR, or the virtual assistant referee, who can say, hey, there's no offside, it's a good goal, stuff like that. And now baseball has, stayed away from it. They, of course, added replay. They've added a challenge system like the NFL. Now, James, James, we still have a mixture of old school baseball, called strike or called balls, though, but now, at least in spring training, the chance, though, for what I think, James, is the best caveat, the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter only. If baseball was, like I used to say, baseball's so hell-bent on pace of play and games going too long. This right here is a perfect solution where you can't look to the dugout and you can't have Dave Roberts or Mike Schilt or any manager, and no one else can challenge. Just those three people can challenge: the hitter, the catcher, and the pitcher, and it has to be done like this, or you cannot challenge the call, though. So, James, again, this is not going to be in use for the entire season, in the regular season. But overall thoughts, James, about the ABS. We still have the home plate umpire calling strikes, calling balls, but now, though, we do have the little bit of like a wrinkle, the curveball being thrown literally and figuratively of, hey, I don't like that call, home plate umpire Gonzales. I want to challenge the call, though, but it needs to be done, ASAP. And also, again, like I said, pitcher can do it, catcher and batter only. You can't look to a dugout or, get on the horn and call the video guys like you would for, a close play at first base. So, James, I actually kind of like it for where it's at because we still have the human element in the game, and we're not fully, I think, infiltrating of now we need full-blown robots behind home plate. There still is that old school feel of the umpire there, but now we just have a little bit of a different system that I think so far I've actually enjoyed. Like, I kind of enjoy, like, some of the drama, I guess, now that we kind of have gotten. I know it's in spring training, but, like, I love the, like, maybe a borderline pitch that gets framed, that's called the ball, though, but then we get the quick, like, I'm going like this on the couch, like, challenge the call, that's strike three. And I also like, though, James, too, how they show the animated pitch location, that this play is being challenged. And here's where, and I think what I love the best, though, they'll show where the ball was, where the location was, but also how much, how many inches that the pitch missed the strike zone. So, James, overall thoughts so far about the ABS. What do you think?
Yeah, I've liked it. The first one, of course, was between the Cubs and Dodgers on Thursday.
First game of spring training.
Yeah, Muncy, I think, got a ball called, and the Cubs catcher right away turned around and told the home plate umpire, hey, I want to challenge that. And they reversed it to a strike. And then I think he ended up looking on strikes. It was strike two, I believe. So that was cool. But the only thing is that one took 23 seconds. In the MLB, I'm sorry, in minor leagues, the last 2 years, the process took, I think it was 17 seconds. Now, the ones that I've seen recently, it's been quicker than that. Now, I haven't kept track, but it didn't feel like 23 seconds. I can tell when something's getting too late in time where, okay, you need to keep the game going. And, okay, I know it's still in its testing phase. It might be put in 2026, but I've liked how quick the process has been. I like how it's shown, just like on tennis, on the big screens. And that's what you need to see. And also you hear the umpire, which I know wasn't done before with reviews. There was just signals, safe or out. Now you get an umpire on the microphone saying, the reason why something happened. But they give you that with the reversal or the call standing with the ABS here. So I've liked that. It feels like it's gone fast enough where it wouldn't be a problem in the major leagues in 2026. So it's good for the game. Again, like you mentioned, you want to keep the human element in it. You don't want every close call being challenged. That's why there's only two
challenges per game.
And what is it? If you lose the first one, you don't get the second, or both team gets two no matter what?
Yeah, and I think that you retain it if you successfully challenge correctly, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I thought.
Still kind of screwing about how that whole thing works.
Right, and I think it would be all smooth out, after this season. But if we have a 2026, that's a whole nother story. What was I going to mention? Okay, I think it was, was it the New York Mets? They had a batter challenge a strike that was clearly a strike, but he challenged it right away. And it seemed like the manager or one of the coaches was mad at him for doing that because it was clearly a strike, even I guess from the dugout. But the batter really thought, no, that was a ball. I have to challenge. But if it's used, you have to be really careful when you use it, right? And then you have to get it right, or else you lose the second one if that's the way it goes. So that's going to be the interesting thing, especially if there's a 26 postseason where, okay, if it's brought into the postseason, but in a close game, like in a regular season in 26, what if, in September, you really need a game, you really need a reversal, and you get it wrong where you can't use another one, and you might get slated, you might get a strike three that isn't, right to you.
So James, I'll use a challenge right here and kind of not counter, but throw this caveat your way. What if Major League Baseball did the same thing with the ghost runner on second base? There's no runner on second base in the postseason. What if there's no ABS in the postseason? What do you think about that one?
I think they're going to allow it in the postseason. I think, how we have these major tennis events. I think you have to put it in. Something tells me baseball won't, but baseball should. Because
they should, but I feel like they won't, because I don't think that you want to, even though that, like you said, that this is similar technology to what tennis has with their Hawkeye system of ball in, ball out when it comes to that. Part of me is just now thinking about this. Like, I don't know, honestly, James, because if baseball won't allow the ghost runner on second base in the postseason, why would they allow something like this to happen in the playoffs, but not the other way around?
I think it's because it's a technology thing. I think because it's something advanced, because they want the umpires to get the call right and have the umpires not look as bad. I heard one umpire, I forget that guy's name, but it sounded like he was offended that he had to overturn the call from the ABS system. I think it was the Phillies Oriole game yesterday, and it just sounded like the umpire was like kind of pissed that he had
so
to
defeated.
Yeah. So that would be a thing too with umpires, where they feel like they're being replaced in a way, but just on, it would be a grand total of just 4 calls. It's not every call. You're still going to have the arguments. You're still going to have, pitcher, hitter, catcher, and, manager all pissed. You're still going to have that. And that's another thing too. I mentioned where it's only the pitcher, the hitter, and the catcher with the decision making. I love that. The fact that the manager, who is on the side, can only see the height of the pitch, not, the location, because he's from the side. So he wouldn't have a good view of it. That's always the arguing point with the umpire, where it's like, you're way over there. How could you see it? And I'm right here. So I do like it's just the battery and the pitcher there having the decision making. I hope that it comes in 26, and then I really hope that they realize technology is a good thing and they can use it in the postseason. But that's going to be interesting. And I also want to see at the end of spring training how many calls were reversed. I want to see that once we get to March 25th, I think it is. Yeah. I want to see how that goes.
Yeah, James, I think that's the thing I'm most happiest about, is that it's only the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter who can challenge it. Because I think the Padres inadvertently had Tyler Wade tap his head because he was lined up, like, not behind second base, but close enough to it, though. And I'm like, Tyler, you can't challenge the call, my friend, just because you may have a direct line. And that's why I think, James, that the system will work, because you can't have anybody in the field who they think they have a better vantage point, like, hey, you guys can't be doing this because you're not the pitcher, the catcher, or even the hitter. So I think that's huge. And I think, James, I'm with you, though. These reviews can't take 23, 25, 30 seconds. They have to be done, between 5 and 10 seconds, I think. Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah, I really like the time process, but I just want it to be consistent if it ever comes, or else people will complain Well, you got the pitch clock right, but you don't have this right. And now I know you shaved off a half an hour off of games, but now you have this stoppage maybe 4 times a game, and you can't take a minute. You can't even take 30 seconds. It has to
Yeah,
be
it can't take more than, I'd say it can't
10 to
take more
15.
than 15 seconds.
Right. That's what I hope for if it ever
Maybe
comes
20.
in.
20
Yeah.
at the most.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
All right, James, a couple of thoughts here. First, a good evening to our good man, Casey King, joining us down in the desert of Arizona. Hope Case, all is good, my friend. Our resident Little League umpire, my good man, Brent DeMoss, writes in, James, he says, I kind of like the ABS. As a reminder, umpires are human and mistakes happen. Please imagine, though, guys, if Angel Hernandez was out there with this system. Ha, 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 ha.
Did he retire? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I think he retired because he knew that the robots were coming for his job.
Just like everyone else.
Yeah, damn artificial intelligence. But hey, it's helped me with my online radio station ideas. It's helped me with chants for San Diego Football Club and with organizing our pregame and postgame tailgate parties. It's helped with, coming up with the ideas for all the shows on the online radio station. And it's even helped me, do some stuff for work, so it's not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. Brent also asked, though, guys, it's been my question, though. Only the batter can use the ABS, or would the pitcher challenge it too? Yeah, Brent. So it's the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter. That is it. Fielders can't challenge. Neither can the dugouts. I think, like we said, though, Brent, they're trying to keep the whole pace of play thing going on. They don't want to be, having, Mike Schultz, look to the video guy, or his bench coach, call up the video guys to review the play like it is like on a bang play at first base. So that's the beauty, I think, though, Brent. It's only 3 people who can challenge and not anyone else.
Now, okay, let's have a scenario here where, let's say, Manny Machado is real peeved at the pitch location and he's playing third base. Can he signal to the pitcher to challenge, or would that be illegal?
Oh, that's a great question. Now, I don't know, James, because I kind of mentioned, that Tyler Wade, went like this, I think, either on Saturday or Friday to maybe try to get a call overturned. But again, I'm on the couch like, Tyler, you can't challenge. I think the Padres already had burned a challenge like earlier in the game, and it was already, and we were up like 9 or 10 or 11-1. It's like, why bother? It's like, I don't understand it. So that part, though, would be something.
In the heat of the moment,
In the heat of the moment, though, could Xander Bogaerts, Jake Cronenworth, or Machado tell Yu Darvish to, do they have, could they have like a secret, hand signal that doesn't involve doing this? Like I feel like there's going to be some team, James, probably the Dodgers, they'll find a loophole around this. They will find a way to tell their pitcher in some way, or tell the catcher in some way to, to challenge, but not make the sign clear for them to do so. Like, maybe the catcher could, put up his middle finger, for all that I know. And that's like their code, but it's like their code word, challenge the call.
The Astros, if all of them were together again, they would have a buzzer going off on the catcher or the pitcher from the dugout.
I mean, possibly. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
That would be a way.
That though is something, James, I would probably keep an eye on, though, too, because I know that you're looking at like the reversals of calls, or what the percentile is of the reverse calls. I'm now more invested now. I know it's only for spring training, but I'd be very curious about how teams try to beat the system. Like you said, though, could a Xander Bogaerts in a way, flash, wave to the pitcher in that moment, where then it's like they have some kind of gesture, a middle finger, a thumbs up, whatever it might be, some screwy, thing. But that is their code word, challenge the call, if you're the catcher or the pitcher. That would be something. I agree. James, quickly, to the other big baseball story that I did not put in our rundown, though, but I did talk about this on Press Row last Thursday night. That, of course, James, was the major news, though. ESPN and Major League Baseball severing ties 3 years before the contract runs out, per my crumpled up notes from last Thursday's show. Again, MLB and ESPN severed ties for what they were calling, due to mainly, James, ESPN's putrid minimal coverage of the game on ESPN. But this also, James, by the way, came on the heels of a Instagram reel I saw of a ESPN employee who showed his viewers and followers what has become of the Baseball Tonight set in Bristol, Connecticut. It's a giant warehouse now full of crap for staging and for stage shows, and it's basically overrun by a bunch of garbage and a bunch of storage for old set designs of ESPN programs. So, James, I kind of went off the rails on Thursday a little bit about I fully understand it. And like, this might be the one time that I think you and me both side with Commissioner Manfred. Because like I said, though, James, I don't care to watch NFL Network on February 24th. We already had the Super Bowl already come and go. Leave the NFL behind till April. I know I hate the NFL, folks, but this is the Entertainment Sports Programming Network. That's literally what ESPN stands for. And again, James, I reported that they were looking for $550 million that were still on that contract for 3 years, and baseball walked away from it. Again, basically saying, you don't do your job for what we're paying you to do to cover America's national pastime. Like I also said, though, James, the coverage, though, of the sport away from them discontinuing, stopping Baseball Tonight, taking it off of ESPN TV and ESPN Plus, and for that matter, ESPN in general. And I think all that's left of their writing team is Jeff Passan, Buster Olney, and Jesse Rogers. Those are like the main 3 names I know that still write, and Alvin Gonzales. Those are the main 4 guys I know who still write for ESPN. But also that the coverage, though, James, has involved just, 1 hour of Baseball Tonight as the countdown show to a game that I'm sure, James, is 99.9% of the time involving the LA Dodgers and New York Yankees, and I don't care what anyone else out there says. On top of all that as well, though, James, we also think about the fact, though, too, Baseball Tonight, no longer around, like I've said, though. But more importantly, again, it's the minimal coverage. Again, NFL talk in February after the Super Bowl, no thank you. NBA, I get. If there's ever NHL talk, absolutely. But I just, James, don't see, though, how for 35 years, this feels a little bit, James, not in a roundabout way, but I think a lot about the NBA with TNT. Now, that is a different kind of scenario where, again, they pulled the rights away from TNT and they're moving off of it to, NBC, Amazon Prime. But this, James, is just more of a deliberate, thing of ESPN to just further take baseball off of the American sports fans' radar because it's been overpassed. And I get that by the NFL, and by the NBA and by other sports that are, on a clock and they're faster, they're this and they're that. But more importantly, though, James, I also broke it down too. MLB is getting $85 million over the life of their Apple TV Plus deal for the Friday night package. They're getting $10 million per year from the Roku package, which runs from May through August usually. And that used to be the Peacock 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. game on the West Coast, though, from the East Coast game. And MLB also demanded that there would be a reduced price for ESPN to keep the package on it. Where I said, James, other than Fox and FS1, I think FS1 does games on Wednesdays and Tuesdays, I want to say. Of course, Fox has the Saturday, 10 a.m., 4 o'clock time slots. But, James, I hitched an idea, though, on Thursday. If I'm TNT and TBS and Warner Bros. Discovery, and I know that I'm losing the NBA coming up here in a couple of months, why am I not on the phone right now calling MLB Media? Because you already have the ALCS and the postseason already on TBS. Like I said, I love Brian Anderson. I love what TBS brings, though, with Pedro and their studio team. You already have those seeds planted. Why not go forward with it? I even thought as well today, James, this morning, the WNBA should go to TNT as well, or even TBS too, because of where the deal is. Now, I know that won't happen, sadly, because they're suckered in to the NBA package right now with, ESPN, NBC, and all that. But I really, James, thought, though, Turner needs to do something. Because again, you're not going to make revenue off of showing Star Wars movies, Marvel movies, and all of my favorite sci-fi films of Star Wars and Marvels and the MCU for Marvel Comics. Why not take the gamble on baseball? Why not go there when you already have that pre-existing deal? I think they get to show the American League package, I believe, on TBS or in TNT or even True. Now, I know you could say, well, you're going to probably miss out a little bit, though, because you got March Madness at the end of March when opening day rolls around and, parts of April. I think that can all be worked out, I think. So, James, first of all, give me your thoughts about ESPN, how they've gone downhill with Major League Baseball. Again, Baseball Tonight being off the air, how the coverage has just been so bad and, really bad for MLB. But also, maybe my weird idea, MLB goes to TNT and TBS pretty soon.
Yeah. I guess I'll answer your first and just remind me of the second. But with the ESPN situation, it seemed like this was coming for years. And
agreed.
And I heard that they still had 3 years left on the deal, and they both mutually decided to part. And it's just awkward because I was just thinking about it the other day when I read the news where all of our lives, Sunday Night Baseball, and it was, John Miller and Joe Morgan. And once they left, I wasn't listening as much. At one point, they had a crew that they were just giggling the whole time through the broadcast, it seemed like. And I forget who it was, but either Shambi.
Was it Ravage Mendoza and Eduardo Perez?
I think so, like it is now. It just seemed like a giggle fest where they cover the game, but it goes off the rails a little bit, or they highlight one player. And I think it goes back to, remember Eduardo Perez? He was talking about, Mookie Betts when I think the Padres were playing the Dodgers in San Diego one time on Sunday night. Perez took it to a personal level where, hey, Fernando Tatis Jr., that's an MVP, because he was talking about Mookie Betts, doing things right. And it feels like ESPN, the whole network, has a bunch of these analysts or personalities.
Just what they are, James. They're airheads.
Yeah, that just make it about themselves instead of the actual games, and that's what it used to be about. Like Carl Ravage, I used to come home, or I think come home after practice, whatever the case was, and like all the East Coast games were going on. When they didn't have, 3 or 4 games during the week on ESPN, they would have Baseball Tonight. And I would watch it all the time with Harold Reynolds, Ravage,
Peter
and
Gammons,
Walter,
Earl Ravage.
Yeah, so I loved watching that because that was like my that was the MLB network until that came, and I found myself watching MLB network throughout the afternoon or evening after work or whatever, just to see what's going around. They other from the Dodgers, they didn't cover the West Coast well, and it just seemed like this was coming because they put all their coverage toward the NFL, the NBA, WNBA, and now the NHL too. So they have all that going for them right now. Because and was it the NFL Combine is going to be tomorrow? So you have that, and that's going to be big there too.
Whoop-de frickin' do.
If you want to see men in tights and doing stuff, go on ahead. But they had a shrinking coverage at MLB the last, I want to say 4 to 5 years. It seemed like after COVID, I want to say after COVID, it just felt like, okay, they only had one wild card game. Maybe they would have part of the other wild card game or something.
Yeah, all they have for coverage is Sunday Night Baseball, the Home Run Derby, and then the wild card round for the National League, I believe.
Yeah,
they have the AL and NL wild card series. Yeah,
that's what it was, and like that all was great and everything, but it was the same crews doing the games, and I couldn't get myself to listen to Ravage. I like Shulman, and I wish I liked A-Rod back then. I like him now when he's in studio,
I'm just trying to think, James. I think, James, that Sean McDonough called the Tigers Astros series, and I believe it was the regular crew calling Padres Braves, I believe, in San Diego.
Yeah, it's just I wish I don't even like Shambi either. But um,
I love Boog Shambi.
I wish this didn't happen, but it goes to show you, like, ESPN over the years, they've just lost its way. They've gone to what's more popular for their personalities than what people want to watch. But I think baseball in itself is kind of dying in that global like network, and they just have to find a landing spot. But yeah, I've seen this coming, but I didn't think it was going to be foregoing their contract. I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but they put more money towards the NBA, WNBA, NFL, to keep the NFL, to keep the Monday Night Football coverage on their networks. The second part,
TNT getting into the running
yeah.
maybe for the package, because they already have the seeds. Like I said, seeds are planted already, with TBS having I believe the ALDS and ALCS already on their package.
See, I love, and I did this a lot last year when I would come home from work. I would hope to catch the last of the Tuesday night post-game show, because I'll get to hear Jimmy Rollins when Dusty Baker was there, Gary Sheffield when he was there, and of course Pedro Martinez, Curtis Granderson. I forget, and then the woman, I forget her name. She also does MLB Network.
Lauren Shahadi.
Yeah, she's great too. She keeps the energy going in the building. So I always watch them in the postseason. So I love how it's not anything ESPN. That's also a thing too. So I also thought about that this morning as well on my way to work. I'm thinking to myself, well, they already have, Tuesday night baseball. They used to have, I think, Sunday afternoon baseball. I think
which
I
now
don't
went to
know
the
if they still
Roku,
do.
which now went to Roku, I believe, starting in May.
Yeah, but they used to have. Oh, I thought they still have it, but no, maybe not. Okay, I think that goes to MLB Network, the Sunday afternoon games.
Yeah.
But they used to have Sunday afternoon games, and it was really good matchups or whatever. But they have Tuesday night now, where sometimes they'll have a doubleheader, sometimes they won't. A lot of times they don't. But yeah, I thought, okay, you're losing the NBA. They're taking it away from you. You have what? Golf, NASCAR, March Madness, which is only like that many weeks. You could have MLB all through the season. You could pair up with MLB Network and make it happen. So I think that would be the right move, since Fox and FS1 already has their MLB package. You can't go on another, local affiliate. So yeah, Turner would be the right thing. And also, you're talking about the game. I mean, sorry, the programming that Turner has throughout the day for TNT. It's all like long ass movies, 3 hours long, but with commercials that make it long. I'll wake up after Inside the NBA. I'll wake up the next morning, and I think Charmed is always on. So I know, like, oh yeah, today's Friday because I watch Thursday Inside. So they always need programming, not only on the weekends, but during the week. And I think for TNT, that would be a huge, huge thing. And Ernie Johnson Jr. can stay. Well, he is going to stay anyway, I think, with TNT, and he could continue to do the baseball coverage. So I want to keep.
And he's done playoff games in the past for TBS. I recall him calling, I believe, Baltimore, Toronto, I want to say, in the postseason, 2013, 2014, I want to say.
Yeah, so that was. So I would just hope they keep it for him, however long until he retires. But that would be the simplest move. I'm trying to think of other networks out there that would maybe want.
And I also think, James, too, like in a way, like Turner's been crushing it though too with the NHL. I mean, their studio team has been great all the past couple years. That's in a way another sports thing on their portfolio, on top of doing USA Soccer, on top of doing, I believe, some NASCAR events, some golf events. That I think adding baseball would just really, I think, further help Turner Sports keep growing.
Do you think Amazon? Amazon would have to buy the whole package, not just a week.
And they already have but Amazon already has games from the Yankees on the platform. I don't know if that would really work though, sadly.
Good, okay. I was trying to figure. Okay, I'm trying to keep it away from streaming and keeping it from streaming and keeping it on like a cable network. I think
TNT
the older generation would love that.
Yeah,
too.
I was gonna say TNT or Casey. Excuse me. He's been hearing rumblings about maybe going back to CBS possibly.
On YouTube, it was funny. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. There was a Sunday afternoon, Saturday, whatever it was. It was like Dodgers and Braves on CBS. I'm like, the hell? And then I had to remember, when the Blue Jays won, that was both.
The Blue Jays are the world champions.
So that'd be cool, but the only thing is you have that contract with Fox that isn't going away anytime soon. So I don't think.
Yeah, but the NFL makes it work though with with all these different networks. What about baseball going to NBC?
But they already have the NBA coming in. I don't think they would take on another sport.
It'll be on ABC. But I know it's part of ESPN though.
They wouldn't
take ABC does the AL wild card usually.
Yeah.
With that, James, let's get through some of these comments real quick from Casey. Casey first says, and I think we all agree, ESPN's coverage has gone downhill or went downhill when they got rid of John Miller and Joe Morgan. Again, John Miller is still plugging away as the announcer on the radio, I believe, for the Giants on KNBR radio up in the Bay Area. Casey again mentioned that Sunday Night Baseball should be moved to CBS. Heard that has been mentioned as a possibility. Again, we'll see what happens with that. I think though CBS has just so much on their plate, James, between the golf tournaments, the home of March Madness and the national title game for men's college basketball, their own college basketball, the WNBA coverage, the NWSL coverage on top of what else they have going on. I think their plate's just a little bit too full for a cherry on top of the giant ice cream sundae that they have right now with CBS.
I agree.
Can you imagine Jim Nantz calling a baseball game, by the way? That'd be something.
I was thinking, did he ever?
I don't know if he ever has, honestly. I mean, he probably did at one point.
When they had the CBS coverage?
I just know him for the NFL, golf, and for college hoops.
March Madness. No, I think Pat O'Brien was on the sideline whenever they had the MLB coverage in the 90s. Never mind. I think Leslie Vesser, when they had playoff games, they had both Pat O'Brien and was it Leslie Vesser? I forget her name. But I think they were both on the sideline for those playoff World Series games back in the day.
I was going to say about Dick Emmer. What I forgot. Oh wait, Dick did NBC's coverage of MLB with Joe Garagiola and
I did see that.
Vince Scully, I think, at one point in time.
In 1982, I think I saw that.
Yeah. Casey also says, why not just move Sunday Night Baseball to MLB Network?
They have so many weekly showcases, especially when it's the Dodgers, when it's the Yankees, when it's the Mets, when it's the Red Sox. Man, it feels like it'd be too much saturation on one network, even though it is MLB
and honestly,
Network.
And honestly, I like the Sundays during the season for MLB Network, Casey, because I love being able to watch a morning game at 10 o'clock on the East Coast, and then I can sit through the Sandlot or Field of Dreams, and then watch Quick Pitch once the last game once the SNB game is over on ESPN.
Yeah,
and I mean they do, and I mean though that, and plus the network already does games every day. It seems like Monday, Tuesday, they're always showing a game. I know they do that a lot for the first I'd say first month of a season usually.
Yeah, they're clutch with that.
Casey also says the internet showings have to go bye-bye. Sadly, Case, they won't be because of the cost-cutting and cord-cutting measures in place with cable TV. That's why all these leagues, James, are jumping ship to Prime Video or Peacock, because it's way cheaper than paying the damn cable bill.
True. I just
the only problem, though, is that it's behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And I'll have more about this later on, though, in the show. Casey further agrees that he believes that both TBS and TNT would be great options. He does agree, James, that it was Jessica Mendoza who was kind of giggling her way through the broadcast on ESPN. He also agrees TNT having NHL coverage is also awesome. And Casey also says, thinking about it now, TNT and TBS would be the way to go for MLB. And you can also use Kenny Albert on some games, much like Brian Anderson, Don Orsillo. I mean, who else? Whoever else works for Turner during the course of the season. Can we have Shaq be a guest? Can we have Shaq be a guest host?
I love Kenny Albert, man. He does. I watch him a lot whenever he does the NFL on Fox games. Usually they're the NFC games that it's like second tier or third tier. But I love him in Vilma, and when I forget her name, and she was the anyway. Kenny does great with hockey as well when the playoffs come up as well. I'll hear him on FS1 do those weekly MLB games. He'd be great for that.
You know who else I think would be great? Kevin Harlan. Can you imagine him calling a baseball game and him calling a walk-off homer?
Could he get through a baseball game?
I think he could.
It's not exciting the whole time.
Casey agrees that both CBS and Fox could work out. And to clarify, he says he believes that Jim did a couple of fill-in games on CBS, but that was it. But it would be cool to have him calling baseball. Who says no? I just think, though, sadly, Casey, that CBS's plate's just too damn full. They got so much going on.
Yeah.
So much going on. With that, James, we'll move now from all things baseball to all things NFL. James, how am I not surprised, my friend? I know I've been a very big, barking, fist pumping fan who says, I hate talking about this sport, but I cater to our audience and my audience out there. But James, how am I not surprised, though, man? Every time that the season comes to an end, which is the best thing for me because I don't care for the sport, but I have noticed a trend, though, James. Every time the NFL season concludes and we crown the champs with the Lombardi Trophy, there is one or a couple of teams who want to change the rules further about how this game has been played. And that, of course, James, came out on Monday per The Athletic. The Green Bay Packers are now the latest team to call for a rule change. And James, maybe no surprise, they're calling for a ban on the Eagles' tush-push/brotherly shove on the 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 plays because of whatever the reasons are. But James, why does this not surprise me? I feel like in the last, I'd say, 2 to 4 years, there has been teams like Buffalo and even Cincinnati who have been clamoring for changes to the rules because they kept feeling that they kept getting hosed by whatever the rules committee already had in place. But James, I see two sides here. There's two sides to a coin. There's two sides of a story. One, I see why that they would want to ban the move because it is a play that is hard to, I think, prep for. And you might know it's coming, but you really can't stop it. But why, though, James, do I feel like, though, that this play, this might sound stupid, but again, I don't watch or care for the NFL. But why, though, do I feel like that Green Bay's calling for this for player safety reasons, mainly because of the quarterback being under center and having all of those guys topple on top of him where you don't want, even if it's on a rival team or on a different team, I don't think you want to see the star quarterbacks of this league run a play like this and then someone takes they take a knee to the head, for example, and it gives them a concussion. Again, Jalen Hurts worked through a concussion this season en route to the Super Bowl victory and the Super Bowl MVP. So, James, which side are you on here for this? Ban the play because of, either you can't get the right personnel in place or it's an unfair advantage or player safety?
I'm trying to remember week 1, the game in Brazil, where I know Jordan Love got hurt and he left the game, but Jalen Hurts was fine. I'm trying to remember if they did a tush push or whatever, or did Saquon run it by himself. I don't think a tush push was done versus the Packers this year, so I don't think it's a personal thing. But when this topic came up, I was thinking about it where, okay, the Packers are the oldest team in the NFL, right? Along with
between them and Chicago, it's pretty damn close. Yeah,
they're both 1920. So
the Bears were the Staleys at one point in time.
Yeah, you've had other teams call for the ban. I'm surprised Washington didn't come out because
I was
remember
going to
they
say,
had the
James,
whole
I was going to
fiasco.
say, I'm surprised it wasn't a team that Philly beat on their way to the Super Bowl victory. Like the Chiefs didn't call for it. The Commanders, who else did they play? The Rams, I think.
Los Angeles, yeah. I almost said St. Louis. Oops. No, yeah.
That was more. I think that was more of a surprise. I believe I want to say like during the Chiefs' recent run, I believe the Bengals called for a change about a ruling. I think the Bills clamored for it because they felt like they had gotten hosed by rules or by calls that went in favor of the Chiefs over a team like the Bengals or the Bills.
I think it was a player safety issue, and the league was thinking about switching it. It wasn't an NFC team coming out against the Eagles.
Right.
It was the league. So this is the first time a team has come out, and I just think because the Packers would have more say with the NFL because of their history, that maybe it would go through. Yes, it's about player safety, but it's unstoppable. Like again, it should have been Washington complaining because you had, I think, the same guy, the same
jump off sides,
linebacker,
and literally the referee said, if this play continues, this is an automatic touchdown. Yes, that is a rule.
I love that too because it sprung out something you thought you would never hear or see unless you're in like a peewee game or something.
We can literally grant the offense team a automatic touchdown because the ball keeps getting moved, and by the time that we move it another half foot or whatever, it's going to be in the end zone for a touchdown.
And Dan Quinn would have been pissed either way. But yeah, I honestly thought Washington would be the team again because of that scenario or fiasco. But I just think Green Bay is trying to get whatever advantage they can, knowing that Philly finally won the Super Bowl. I mean, in this time with Jalen Hurts, like finally in the tush push era, that the Eagles finally won the Super Bowl, and the Packers felt like they were, close to getting there in a way, but I don't think it'll ever be changed unless it feels like unless there's a significant injury to another quarterback who tries it on their team. But if it happens to Hurts, the NFL would basically say, well, who cares because they try it all the damn time. But if it happens to like a Justin Herbert or especially a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, then they're going to ban it. I think it's going to come down to a popularity contest. If an injury happens with the tush push with those marquee quarterbacks, not saying Jalen Hurts isn't, but if it happens to the marquee quarterbacks, then they'll ban it literally that week. I guarantee it. But I think it's going to stick around, and there's really no way of stopping it. I think that's why Green Bay came out and called for it. And again, I think Green Bay feels like they're a receiver away from really competing with the Eagles. They feel like they were close week 1 last season, and maybe this is a way to try to get it stopped. But yeah, Mark Murphy too, the CEO of Green Bay, the president, I think too. He's always said some, not crazy things, but he's always been out there in front when it comes to decision making, going out in the media, speaking about something. He had that, whole fiasco again with Aaron Rodgers, either keeping him or trading him and all that. So I know he was saying he's not a fan of the play. It's not real football. There's no skill involved. It's automatic first down with a yard or less needed. The play is bad for the game. The thing is, too, it would prohibit the push of the runner. This would bring back the traditional quarterback sneak. Now, I could see his point there because they don't allow you, I think, to pull, like offensive linemen cannot pull the runner forward, to get forward progress.
It's almost like the defensive line jumping over the center to block the field goal, kind of in a way it seems like, where you can't, leverage, as they say. That's
an interesting topic too, because There's been times where, like, Seattle used to do this, and New York did it against Seattle. New York Giants did it last year against Seattle in the win, where they would hop over the center but make no contact. So it's legal and block a kick and return it for a touchdown. So they've been allowed, the certain teams have been allowed to go over that rule without getting in trouble. I agree, though, with him in that sense, where you're prohibiting the push of the runner forward from the back, and you're literally having the quarterback having to do it by himself, but with the blockers, the traditional way. So it'd be a quarterback sneak, but you would still have a push. So I don't think it's going away, though. Just the popularity of it, and no one's gotten truly hurt from it. But it just takes one incident, and you would get the problem, though.
Yeah, why don't I also think, James, that like Troy Polamalu was like the master of jumping over the center, at certain points to, make a tackle, what have you. But I do think, James, that, great points brought up, though. But I think I can see like this is 50-50. Like you're saying, it's an unfair advantage. It's an unfair play. It's an automatic first down. Like we can't, again, going to my point, you can't really prep for it. Like, it's coming. Can you stop it? And that's obviously not been a thing that teams have been able to pick up on during this last season. Like again, teams probably had prepped for it. It's in the game plan. We're going to, try and stop it, but you can't do so. Now, maybe I think that you can tweak the rule, though, that you can't shove Hurts or the quarterback over the first down line. Again, the leverage or pulling the guy over, the yard to gain. But I also, James, feel like this might be a little bit, again, keyword is little bit, of a player safety reason. Like I said, if it happens to Herbert or Mahomes, especially Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, any, I don't want to say, big name quarterbacks, because obviously, Hurts has, 2 rings in 8 years. Mahomes has, 3 and whatever it is, 1 for Hurts. I forgot that he wasn't on that 2019 team, but still more than anything else, though, is just that I do feel like it's a player safety reason. Just for like, if someone else runs this play and it goes wrong, the NFL is going to step in and ban the play. James, do you further agree?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, folks, we'll keep an eye on that story. But again, the Green Bay Packers, not Washington, not Detroit, not the Rams, the Packers, who, like James said, though, kind of in a way like the Bears, iron fist rulers, the oldest active members of the NFL, calling for a ban, the prohibition of the tush-push/brotherly shove by the Philadelphia Eagles. With that, James, from all things NFL football to all things hoops, my friend, double whammy, sadly, for the up-and-coming San Antonio Spurs. They found out over the course of the weekend, James, that they will be without star center Victor Wembanyama due to, sadly, James, deep vein, I forget the name, actual name of it, but blood clotting in his shoulder. He is officially done for the season, kind of a very freak thing. He had said he was telling teammates he would wake up in the morning and felt like the energy was sapped out of him. He really wasn't able to get out of bed, and he just kind of felt very fatigued very easily. He is officially done for the season due to what is now being called deep vein thrombosis, I believe is the official name for blood clotting in the shoulder. So he's done for the year. And also, James, sadly, their future Hall of Fame coach, Greg Popovich, will not return after suffering a mild stroke way back in November. And the interim head coach, I believe, Mitch Robinson, will still anchor the team. And James, this is sadly, man, a double whammy for a team who came off probably easily their most dismal season in recent memory for the Spurs last year. And really, I think, James, was on the up and up here until this news came out over the weekend out of the All-Star break about Wemby having the blood clotting in his shoulder. And, of course, Pop having not having a setback, though, but he's officially done coaching for the season due to the stroke that he had back in early November. So, James, how much, though, does this hurt San Antonio literally and figuratively going forward?
Well, you have to think about life with both situations, and both are scary situations. Start with Popovich. He's older, and you figure he doesn't have so many years to coach, and this just goes along with it, sadly. And to have a stroke is literally no joke with that. Coaching for so many years, the aggression he would have of and that's on a winning team too for so many years. And now he's trying to coach all these kids around. And the year before, I would say, was the word before they drafted Wembayama to get that first pick. That must have felt like 96, 97 all over again. Because, again, they ended up with the first pick, but they just had nobody on the team. And you felt bad for Popovich because he was so used to coaching, all-stars and winners, and they didn't have him there. And that finally caught up to Coach Pop, and it almost feels like he should retire, like Casey mentions, just because of age, just because of the health scare. It's just maybe time for him. I know he has the heart to do it, the desire to do it, but didn't we see this with Francona? He had so many surgeries.
Yeah, he had like not fluky, but just kind of a lot of things happened during the course of his. Yeah, I don't know if he had a stroke, but I know he had some kind of debilitating health effects that he was suffering from, which is why he left the Guardians, I believe, and now here he is coaching or managing the Reds.
The desire to coach or manage, it never goes away, until you start losing other things and you start realizing, okay, maybe I should get away from it, even though it's been their lives. You just have to get away from it. And then with Wembayama, that's nothing to mess with whenever blood clot. I was trying to remember, someone else had the same issue, not with the same body part, but someone had a blood clot and they had to get surgery or something. I think it was Ronnie Turioff when he was with the Lakers.
I think Ronnie Turioff had it. I think
no, that was heart surgery for Turioff.
And I think Tony Gwynn also had deep vein thrombosis while he was going through his cancer treatment too before he passed, sadly.
Yeah, but there was another NBA player that had a blood clot issue, and
Chris Bosh.
he had to retire.
Chris Bosh had to retire because of it.
Yeah, that's.
I think he had them in his, but I think Bosh had his in his legs though, not in his shoulder.
Yeah, thank you. That's what it was. It was, I think, 2016 or something like that, and he still had at least 3 or 4 more years where he was still going to be a good player. But it kind of reminds me of that episode with Chris Bosh. But it's happening to Wembayama at such an early damn age. I think he's only 21, I want to say.
It's his second year in the league?
Yeah, the second year in the league. And, of course, the worst-case scenario I was thinking of is like, okay, he can never play again. And I'm thinking to myself, crap. I mean, it's awful for him, but he gets to live still. But it'd be awful for the Spurs, because
without a doubt,
you tanked for him. Now, they could be sitting pretty, actually, because they had a trade with Atlanta, I think for DeJounte Murray to go to from the Spurs to Hawks. There's a scenario where they could get either the first pick, if they tank from here, the Spurs, where they could have 2 picks in the top 5 because the Hawks pick goes to the Spurs this year, plus they'll have their own one. So the Cooper Flag sweepstakes just got a little bit heavier. Nobody wants to see him play in Washington, by the way. So yeah, it's just a horrible situation for the Spurs. I know they just got De'Aaron Fox, Chris Paul, great leader, of course. They were able to keep their young assets as well, Vassell and Castle. That was a shocker between that De'Aaron Fox trade. But yeah, take care of yourselves first before you come back. That'd be, I guess, the advice for both Wemby and Popovich, and retire if you have to. I would say to Greg, and for Victor, yeah, get that done right. Get that done before you come back. You literally have your whole life ahead of you, your whole career. And luckily they kind of caught this, before it got worse for him. I can only imagine waking up with the aching pains that he had, like you mentioned. But being a big fellow like him, tall guy like him, it gets worse on everything that you are or that your body is. So I just wish them nothing but the best in recovery.
James, a little digging real quick. Again, Victor Wembanyama suffering from deep vein thrombosis. Just pulled up like an article from Mayo Clinic. Most common in the legs or pelvic area, Chris Bosch, as we mentioned. Minority of the DVT, deep vein thrombosis symptoms, occur in the arms, a la the shoulder as Wemby's suffering from. Symptoms can include pain, swelling, redness, and enlarged veins in the affected areas, but some DVTs have no symptoms. So who knows what really he might be suffering from at this rate. And as I kind of, James, think about this game, the Spurs, they're 7 games under 500 right now, 24-31 in the standings. But still, I think, turned a corner, I feel like, this season with, again, as you said, with Vassell and Castle in a way. But again, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, though. I felt like they still needed like one more year, with Wemby. But I think, James, like you said, though, sometimes life weighs more than wins and losses in a basketball game. You can throw those out the window because all that matters is the life that you live now, the life that you want to live, and the life that you will live, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But I do think, James, though, that with Pop and sadly, Greg Popovich, legendary coach, San Antonio, obviously, played at the Air Force Academy multiple times, winning gold medals with Team USA. James, I have a very cool story about Pop, not involving me, but kind of involving me in a way, though. But at the University of San Diego, we had a men's basketball coach named Hank Egan, who took over, I believe, in 1984 from Jim Brovelli, who was the head coach ever since the school became Division I. And Hank led our program for 10 years, and we had probably our most successful time with him at the helm. I think we went to two tournaments and won two conference titles in his time there. And when Hank left, he ended up going to the Spurs. When Pop got the job in 96, I believe, because Pop and Hank were teammates at the Air Force Academy. Pop called him up. I need an assistant coach. So Hank left USD and went and took the job with the Spurs. And they, of course, won in 99, 2000, I want to say. And so a great family friend, but she's more of an aunt, sadly, or not sadly, but my aunt in de facto terms, Carolyn Greer was the athletic trainer at USD for 40 years. So she saw a lot during her time at the university, and she was there during Hank's time coaching men's basketball. So Carolyn and her husband, Jeff, threw a welcome back celebration for Coach Egan when he came back to town from San Antonio. And so my dad, who had just kind of begun coaching high school baseball and had coached me and my brother for a long time, he always talked to Coach Egan about coaching, coaching philosophy and, coaching in general. So the first thing my dad asked Coach Egan, so Coach, congrats. How was it working with Pop in San Antonio? I swear to you, James, Coach Egan's first words, Billy, we won it all. I love Pop, but my God, I hate being Dennis's babysitter. So this is when Dennis Rodman played for San Antonio. So whenever Dennis threw his bitch fits on the court, Pop told him, go sit down. Guess who had to go sit with him and be his babysitter? Coach Egan. So that was his duty the whole entire time in San Antonio, was putting up with Dennis Rodman's sideshow antics for a whole season. And they still won a championship.
Well, okay, when Dennis was there, it was 94, 93, 94, 95. And then he went to the Bulls. When they won in 99, Popovich was the head coach. I think he got the head coaching job in 97. It was a year after they tanked for Tim Duncan.
David Robinson, or Tim Duncan, yeah.
Yeah. Pop was the assistant there for a year. Or no, he was also the assistant with the Warriors, too. And then he was with the Spurs, I think, maybe starting in 92.
He's been there ever since.
Yeah.
Been there ever since.
But, I was watching, I think, The Last Dance last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe it was. But they were showing how, they were profiling Dennis Rodman, I think, on the third episode, I think it was, and
Mm-hmm.
um,
All of
there
his
were
tomfoolery.
yeah, they were showing him, sitting with Jack Haley, R.I.P., but they never really showed Popovich or any assistants he was sitting with. Now, I could go back on YouTube and watch, games or, let's just say videos where they show Rodman's time with the Spurs, and I may have seen Coach, but
Coach Egan.
never
Yeah.
knew who he was. But I've seen Popovich with him or on the bench, but he would never like talk to Rodman. I know they tried George Gervin talking with him too because he was a
Iceman.
Spur ambassador for so many years.
Yep.
But they tried Rodman with him. But I can only imagine because Rodman at that time, he kind of lost his father figure when Chuck Daly left the Pistons, and he started to be the way he was with the Spurs with the Pistons. He almost committed suicide too, and then he ended up, getting traded to the Spurs for Sean Elliott. Sean Elliott went back to the Spurs, surprisingly. Um, but yeah, that must have been a tough job because Rodman was not listening to anybody. He would play when he wanted to. And even David Robinson had
The Admiral.
the hardest time trying to, because he's all, Navy,
The Admiral.
conducting himself, as, the Admiral, we're going to do it this way and no tomfoolery. And he even had a hard time playing with Dennis Rodman and trying to understand his antics. So I can only imagine what Coach Hu was going through. That's an awesome story. Anything NBA history, I'm all over that. So I love that.
I wanted to clarify real quick. So Hank played at Navy. Yeah, so Hank Egan played at Navy, was the head coach at Air Force. That's where Pop got into coaching, was under Hank at Air Force Academy. He then came and coached at USD for 10 years. 304 wins, two-time West Coast Athletic Conference. It was called the WCAC back in the day. 1999 won the title with the Spurs, was an assistant coach there between 94 and 2002. Then was an assistant with the Warriors, and then also went and coached in Cleveland for one of his former players, Mike Brown, who was the head coach between 2005 and 2010 in Cleveland with the Cavaliers. So, yeah, I always love that story, James, because it makes me smile because, like, I knew, family friend who worked at the school, who worked for Hank, who then went to the NBA, he went to the NBA, won it all. And then I just remember, Bill, I love it, but my God, I hate being Dennis's towel boy. That was literally his job while Dennis was in San Antonio.
And Casey mentions, Bob Hill was the coach before Popovich.
There you go, Bob Hill.
And I think before that, it was John Lucas. Not
the John Lucas?
Yeah, the little dude with he had an interesting NBA career himself. He was able to get past some drugs in the, I think, early 80s or late 70s, and he had a good career. He ended up coaching and assisting a lot of teams, but he was also the head coach there in San Antonio either before, it had to be before Bob Hill then. Bob Hill, he must have had a hard time trying to keep Dennis in line as well. I don't think Lucas handled it well. He was wild. Him and Rodman just were crazy together from what I remember.
I just remember, like, whenever I think of the Spurs in the 90s, I think of the Alamo Dome every damn time. I think of when the Raptors played at the Sky Dome and the Wolves played at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, I want to say. The Tampa Bay Lightning playing at Tropicana Field, when it was called the Ice Palace back in the day when they first came into the NHL. Whenever I think of the Spurs, I think of David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and the Alamo Dome for some reason. I don't know why, but it's always been the Alamo. I always think of the Alamo Dome, and I always think of Go Spurs Go.
The paintbrush of the colors on the logo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The curtain.
Bring those back, please. Bring those back, please. And I think too that James. Was it San Antonio? Or was it the Spurs or the Suns when they had the cactus on the All-Star Game jersey? I think it was the Suns. I think who did that, not the Spurs.
Yeah, I think it was as well. The blue curtain they had with the
blue curtain with all the retired numbers and the championships from like the Dallas Chaparrals of the ABA. By the way, can I just say that I really hate the Spurs City edition jerseys this year. It's the singer they've done the hemisphere tribute. Like when they did the throwback to the Fiesta era, I think it had like the slash line and had the like. Why did you get rid of it to honor the old arena in the freaking like Space Needle you have for the hemisphere? Like the colors make no sense. Brown and peach and seafoam green.
I think it was like a month ago. I was watching a lot of old 80s and 80s Spurs games when Gervin was there and Artist Gilmore and how they had
was that
to
back
add
when they just had
the
was that back when they had the big old the big arched San Antonio across the front of the jerseys back then?
On the road uniforms, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They had those until Robinson came. But yeah, they had some interesting teams where they could score, but they couldn't get past like the Lakers or the Rockets.
Sonics.
But yeah, and just George Gervin was awesome. He could score so fast. But they always needed that second player, but they could never get one. They had a lot of like complementary players that would defend well, but no one could like stop the scoring that the other teams had. But Spurs have such an interesting history, successful history too.
Very, especially in the 90s.
Yeah, so I've always liked their history when it comes to the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was the colors, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, David Robinson, Coach Egan. I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for them in my heart, even way back in the day. And I'm just like, you all wearing those City Edition jerseys, like that doesn't scream San Antonio Spurs. I think of the Fiesta colors and the Taco Bell color scheme of the 90s. That may be weird, but that's just what I think of. With that in mind, James, going from all things hoops, all things NHL, a couple of suspensions to talk about here. One given out, one retracted. That came up over the course of this Monday. The Anaheim Ducks are going to be without Trevor Zegras for the next 3 games. Trevor was popped with a 3-game suspension without pay for a interference penalty taken against Red Wings forward Michael Rasmussen on Sunday when Anaheim came back being down 4-1 to force OT but lose to the Red Wings on Sunday by a 5-4 count. Zegras kind of skating towards Rasmussen, open ice, but Rasmussen was clearing the puck away, did not turn his head fully around, and Zegras kind of clipped him with an elbow, though, but kind of in a way, like little forearm shot, though, too. So we got a 3-game suspension. And then James Ryan Hartman of the Minnesota Wild, before the break, got popped with a 10-game suspension for a very blatant, way out of bounds cross-check to the back of the head of Senators forward and centerman Tim Stützle way before the break happened. And due to his nature being a repeat offender, got a 10-game suspension. Then, though, appealed it, though, and now the NHL, as of Monday, per The Athletic, officially docked him 2 more games. So it is a now 8-game suspension. But now the league has told him, this is your wake-up call. If you keep doing this crap, it's going to keep going on and on and on and on. So more than anything else, though, James, my only point here about this is the NHL, and I think, James, sadly, though, there was some news that came out, though, and this is probably not much of a surprise, though, but the NHL, James, though, did confirm via the independent concussion study group assembled at Boston University, I believe, their unit did confirm to the league, we found traces of CTE in Bobby Hull's brain when he passed away last year. And for a long time, James, this has been kind of a talking point amongst the NHL when they have kind of, in a way, like the NFL, James, they have been long in denial that the game of football, the game of hockey, cannot cause concussions. Well, now, James, when you have a Hockey Hall of Famer in Bobby Hull, who now I believe is really the first player that I can recall who had their brain sent for sampling, like Gene Seau and Dave Dumerson in the NFL and other players who, Steve McNair, for example. This, I believe, James, is why now that the NHL has this player, this Department of Player Safety, who they can have a Zoom meeting and have a hearing and say, hey, because of your hit, we have to suspend you because you went way out of your way to make this play. And especially, James, when we're talking about elbows to the head, a cross check to the back of the head off of a face-off, that this stuff now, I think I think is now going to gain more and more traction and that we might, James, see longer suspensions. Because now, James, the NHL can't hide like the NFL did for a long time behind, the logo or the shield that, hey, the Golden Jet, the Bobby Hull, the famous, goal of him scoring, then jumping in the air when I believe the Bruins beat the Blues for the Cup. This stuff isn't going to fly anymore. And I think, James, that this is a good starting point. But also, but I know it's tough, James, to like police this game, sadly. But guys like Ryan Hartman and guys like Ryan Reeves and Matt Rempe, they're kind of like a dying breed of NHL enforcers. Like Stu Grimson is not walking through the door anymore, for example. Guys who are on the roster just to go up there and beat the crap out of the opposing team's enforcer to keep the star players healthy. But I also, James, remember, though, that Mighty Ducks great Paul Kariya, for a long time, he had a grudge, and I mean a major grudge against the NHL because they did not do enough in his mind when he was a rookie and playing from 93 till about 2008, I want to say. He felt, though, in that time frame, the league did not do enough to crack down on guys like him getting injured by a goon like Stu Grimson, for example, taking, elbows to the face, face washes to the face, cross checks, or whiplash effects of the hits against the glass and the boards. And I just remember, James, so vaguely, the 0-3 final when Anaheim played New Jersey, and Scott Stevens, who was a certified goal scorer but also a goon, absolutely railroaded Paul at center ice. And there was no penalty, and Paul was on the ice, and he was knocked out. He, James, did not move for what felt like 30 to 40 seconds, where his visor, his protective visor, fogged up because he was not breathing because he got hit so damn hard. Somehow, some way, though, he gets back. He gets off the ice, and like a minute later, he's back on the ice. Somehow, somebody skating around, and he was interviewed, I believe, by TSN before his Hockey Hall of Fame induction ceremony. He was asked point blank, "What do you remember about Game 6?" He says, "Nothing.
Wow.
I don't recall getting hit by Scott Stevens." The troubling sign, though, James, when he said, "I don't remember scoring a goal in Game 6. Like that right there was like a real holy cow, holy cow, holy cow. Like he was legitimately blacked out and knocked out. But there was no penalty, no suspension. And that was why I think that players like Paul Kariya's careers are remembered, sadly, because they may not have played as long as they probably could have, but the wear and tear factor of the concussions. And now, James, with the news coming out, though, of Bobby Hull, again, legendary, Hall of Famer, Cup champion. I think he's just personally, and I haven't done my, haven't really looked deep in the weeds yet. He might be the first hockey player that I know of who suffered in some way from CTE. And I think now that with the suspensions, of Hartman and Zegras, that the NHL, I think now, James, is realizing we need to clamp down further. Like we can't keep letting these, hits happen where we're losing players or that we're having this sort of stuff happen now on our watch in a roundabout way. But maybe, James, just your overall thoughts about maybe where the game is at now because of policies in place. And maybe, James, your reaction to, again, legendary great of Bobby Hull. Again, Person reports maybe first true case of CTE now coming to limelight for the NHL.
Yeah, it just feels like the NFL and their process of concussions, it's kind of mirroring the NHL's progression, and now they're starting to do the right things, and finally, both will come to a point where, something that was allowed before won't be allowed now, and there will be significant punishment. The hits that I always see that either you talk about, I go watch, the ones that the cross checks to the back of the neck and then that they hit the ice, right? The face. There was that one earlier this year. I forget whom it was, but they got just pounded into the face where they could have broke their neck or their face or whatever it was.
For sure.
And I forget how much the suspension was for that, player who did it. But
10
It comes
games.
to,
Initially, it was 10 games, and now it's been reduced to 8 for Ryan Hartman of the Wild.
so that hit kind of reminds me of when the NFL safeties would launch themselves and hit a defenseless receiver. Now
there's penalties for it now.
They've gotten rid of that rule, or they make it a penalty. And in college football, there's targeting, and now there's significant suspensions for that. We saw I forget the the Texan linebacker who hit Trevor Lawrence, and that type of play too. That one,
and that set off a whole like hockey style brawl, but rightfully so. Though you hit our star player, we will come at you one way or another, come hell or high water. You're going to pay the price.
Al Shazier, I think, was the linebacker for Houston,
who also repeat offender. He has a history like Ryan Hartman of going out there and dirty hits like that to the head of the opposing player or players in general.
So he missed the last 3 games, played the playoff games, but you could just tell now, okay, the NFL said, hey, it's all fun, but now it's not. We have to make it where it's safe enough for the players to thrive. And now, again, it feels like it's mirroring with the NHL. But a hockey's player mentality is, kind of similar to NFL's, where it's more toughness. You can get away with more. There's hitting in those 2 sports more than all the other sports, of course. It's something you want to do legally on the street, but you can't to someone or people. I just wonder, will there ever be a day where you don't see the cross-checking with the stick, or you don't see the hits from behind, where those are the most dangerous, right? Or you get a high stick up the face and making someone, cut their nose or whatever. I just wonder, will the mentality change for future hockey players? Will they come in and they know, okay, this isn't cool anymore, or this isn't safe anymore? Or will that menace mentality still be there for the hockey players because either their father or someone they looked up at, a former player had that mentality and it's just taught to them? I just wonder, though, that mentality, will it ever go away? The enforcer mentality, will that ever go away in the sport of hockey, and it would help the game be more safer?
I don't think that you can totally eradicate the goon mentality. Now, there's not as many goons or, enforcers nowadays because the salary cap is a thing, and it's more about, and also I think, James, like we hear this a lot, though, from like Gretzky or Messier. The game is so much faster nowadays than what it used to be. Like it was more of like, possess the puck, kind of not stagnant back in the day, where now, Connor McDavid can, go coast to coast and beat 4 defenders and score somehow, going from his goal line all the way in, unimpeded. He can, weeble wobble through 1 defender, 2, and make them look like traffic cones out there. But I still think, though, that you'll have guys like Matt Rempe, Ryan Reeves, Radko Gudas, or Ross Johnston, or, brawlers on your team just to keep, your star kids, or, like a Zegras, a Leo Carlson, eventually a Beckett Seneca, or a Macklin Celebrini. You're going to have, guys to keep those kids safe out there, especially when they're, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids coming into the thing. Now, I will say the thing I have loved, though, is that the NHL has now mandated that any player who came in to the league, I believe, within the last, I think it was, the cutoff was 2021. I think it might be longer. They now have to wear a visor. Like you can't get away from the visor now because they have to wear them in the AHL in the East Coast Hockey League. You can't play a minor league game without a visor, or now even the neck guard, because what happened to Adam Johnson, the player who was killed in the game in England last year. But I think, James, that you're going to probably still have to keep, like the tough guy mentality out there. But I think, though, that the NHL, I think they've done a decent job when it's come to calling more cross checks, calling guys who've, have been slashed on the wrist or on the hand or on the ankles. I think, James, I see more holding penalties. There's more slashing penalties, tripping penalties, and more cross checks that have been called more, I think, nowadays, with like the occasional elbow penalty or a knee penalty, or I think, James, the plays that are the most dangerous is what we call when you see numbers. And that means when you see numbers is that you don't go and cross-check the guy or hit the guy when his numbers are towards you or facing you towards the glass, because that could be a penalty for a board or even a charge because they don't see you coming when you hit them from behind. In that way, I remember when I was younger, or when I was, younger, but in my days back in junior hockey, they had penalties for checking from behind. It'd be a lot worse than a cross check because it could go down as a cross check or a hit, or hit from behind. So I would say, though, that you could probably try to keep like tweaking stuff. But I think, though, when it comes to like the tough guy mentality, that's not going away anytime soon. And I love that you mentioned like learning from their dad. Yeah, look at what Matt and Brady Tkachuk did in the Four Nations face-off. 3 fights in 9 seconds, along with JT Miller. Learning from their dad, Keith Tkachuk, who was a brawler but also was a goal scorer.
I didn't even realize that. Okay, and then when did the game get faster? Was it when Sidney Crosby came in or Ovechkin?
I would probably agree. And I mainly, James, think it's after the lockout when the Penguins, of course, got Crosby, the whole, conspiracy theories. Well, he only went there because, they were bankrupt and going to move to Kansas City and they had to get a new arena. I think, James, when they began to tweak rules, at one point you could be called for a 2-line pass back in the day when I was younger. You had to actually, get on your horse and actually touch the puck when it would be iced. Like there's no hybrid icing calls because too many guys would then hit the boards and maybe get concussed because you had to win a foot race and then touch the puck first before the ref could call an icing whistle. They finally ditched the 2-line pass rule. And then they also made the goalie equipment a little bit smaller than what they look like. They look like, Marshmallow from Ghostbusters. They shrunk the goalie gear to add more offense. And I think, though, taking away the 2-line pass added more offense because you can make that pass blue line to blue line, tape to tape, or red line in. And then I think also stopping the icing call where you had to win the foot race and then actually touch the puck, where you don't have two guys, neck and neck, and then someone maybe hits the boards wrong when they draw their shoulder or they get a concussion or whatever else happens. So they have made some changes, I think, has added to the speed of the game. I just think, though, James, that even the guys now, the advances in strength training, weight training, agility training, dieting, nutrition, all that other minutia. There's the stories, James, that Gretzky always says, hey, I used to warm up and after I would do my routine, I'd have a hot dog and a Diet Coke and a Gatorade before the game. I'd go in and I have another Diet Coke and Gatorade during every intermission. It's just like Len Dawson smoking one and drinking one at halftime of the first ever Super Bowl. So it's things like that nowadays. Yeah. So I think it's more about rules have been tweaked. Things have been tweaked, though, when it's come to, goaltending gear, when it's come to the 2-line passes now in the grave, the, beat out the opposing player for the icing has changed. Like some things have made it, they've made changes to make the game safer and better in ways that adds more excitement. Again, I think the Kings put 5 goals in the night. Like that used to not really, back in the day, it used to be like 9-8, 10-7 way back in the day. Like we had really high scoring games, that made those games interesting. And I think that just nowadays, James, that we're just kind of in a new era that I think is just really cool to see.
I forgot to mention or failed to realize whenever they got rid of that offsides rule, was it after the lockout?
James, you cut out there for a second. Can you repeat that real quick?
Oh, when they got rid of that offsides rule, was it after the 2005 lockout?
I think James is still having some small tech problems, so I think he'll check out here for just a sec. But I think, though, James, James is onto a great point, though, when it comes to where the game is at right now with the NHL. But I still want to say, though, and believe, though, that the most recent wave, though, of what we have seen when it's come to suspensions, when it comes to things in general, when it's boiled down to, the shot to the head here or there, that the NHL, I think, is learning now that you really can't hide behind, the CTE rulings in a roundabout way. But that is all things, folks, NHL hockey. Real quick, though, Casey King chimes in. How about it? How about my LA Kings? They're playing good hockey and got a nice win tonight over Vegas at home tonight. More importantly, Case, they're a great team and they're a great home team. I think they have the best home record right now in the entire NHL at this rate. This is all good and all. And I like what they have done so far, Case, when it's boiled down, though, to they've all bought in and they're all contributing. They're all, in a way, putting their stamp, though. Kempe's had a great season. Kopitar's still producing at a high level. Doughty's come back great from the injury that he sustained, though, with the broken ankle. But I think, though, Casey, more importantly, right now, I'd say, got to be goaltending. Darcy Kemper's come back, though, kind of in a way found the fountain of youth, maybe back in Los Angeles after his time, between Arizona and then going to the Capitals for a bit, though, and whatnot. And that him and David Riddick have been very, very good so far, helping out with, with the goaltending. That, Casey, in my opinion, is still, I think, what will either make or break their season. I know I said, though, that Quentin Byfield, I think, would have a breakout year. I think he has so far. But I do think, though, Casey, that goaltending is still a little bit of a small concern I have, though. And I also wonder how aggressive, though, can Rob Blake be, though, at the trade deadline with where they are right now against the salary cap and against the cap right now. I think they can still be aggressive, though, but where will they go? Will it be one more goalie? Will it be one more D-man? Will it be another forward or a centerman? I'm not fully sure, though, what they need right now. They've gotten production, though, too, I think, as well, though, Casey, other than Kempe, who's been a great, great kid to watch so far. Him and Byfield have been so fun to watch. But I just wonder, though, where exactly, though, is the other need, though, other than goaltending? And right now, I still think, and Casey agrees with me about it being goaltending. I think that goaltending is still going to be their problem or their thing right now, is that's the one area that still, I think, in a way, might hold them back just a little bit. I think more importantly, if you don't play Edmonton in round one, I think that they're going to be okay. I mean, right now, their lineup right now, I believe, to play Vegas, in round one, if in fact the standings do in fact hold up. But more importantly, though, Casey, they're winning games, but also they're winning at home. Like, they're making Crypto.com Arena a very hard place to win right now. And that's kind of where I think the Kings have made their bread and butter over the past several years, though, is they've had great records at home, though. But now it's about getting over that damn hurdle if you're a Kings fan. How do we finally get past Edmonton? If, in fact, we lock up, though, in round one or, somewhere down the line in the postseason. I think that's more important right now for LA at this rate, is that goaltending is going to be probably where they would probably add. Now, Casey, I don't know, though, if they go the route of maybe promoting Eric Portillo up this way. I think he's had a great enough season down in Ontario. Phoenix Copley's been a very capable backup down there. He's also a veteran goalie as well. I just kind of wonder right now at this rate where else they can go, but also what does the finances say, though, about the cap? Will this maybe be, maybe a guy who's been very good for LA who might have to be dealt to free up salary for another big name D-man or one more forward, perhaps, to maybe take the load off of Kempe and Moore and Lewis and Kopitar, perhaps. But again, the Kings, though, have had a great year, Casey. But more importantly, they're winning at home, though. And again, they've made Crypto.com Arena a very difficult place to play so far, outside of maybe Vegas and maybe even outside of Boston. Boston obviously is tough, but maybe outside of Winnipeg right now and probably Vegas, LA's got to be the third, at least top three tough places to play right now in all of the NHL, because the Kings have just been so damn good right now at home in the regular season. But with that in mind, folks, while James gets himself back on track here, we'll hold off on James right now. We will now, folks, go from all things hockey to all things soccer. The Major League Soccer season kicked off their 30th season. I can't believe I'm saying that. 30 years of Major League Soccer kicked off over the weekend, folks. And, of course, we'll kind of run through the scoreboard real quick. From the weekend that was in MLS, LAFC kicked off their season beating Minnesota United 1-0 at BMO Stadium in downtown LA on Saturday. Atlanta over Montreal 3-2. FC Cincinnati shut out the Red Bulls 1-0. Columbus doubled up Chicago in Columbus 4-2. DC and Toronto ended in a 2-2 tie. Also was Inter Miami and New York City FC. They were bailed out in a way by a lengthy stoppage time of their match at down at Chase Stadium in Miami, but Inter Miami does draw with NYC 2-2 in that game. Lionel Messi having a clutch assist and also a clutch goal in that match. Philadelphia doubled up Orlando 4-2. Austin over Sporting KC 1-0. Dallas beats in-state rival Houston 2-1, while Nashville and New England locked up 0-0 for their match, while also St. Louis and Colorado wound up in a 0-0 draw as well. The Earthquakes, thanks to Bruce Arena now being at the helm, they clobbered Real Salt Lake at PayPal Park 4-0 late on Saturday night. And also on Saturday, Seattle and Charlotte tied 2-2. The Sounders sadly let Charlotte get the tie after sadly a own goal in the waning moments of stoppage time at Lumen Field on Saturday. Then on Sunday, Vancouver clobbered Portland. Amazingly, the Whitecaps went into Providence Park and hammered the Timbers 4-1 on Sunday. But of course, more importantly on Sunday, the 30th club officially joined MLS on Sunday. Yes, my beloved San Diego Football Club, after 647 days of waiting in America's finest city, Major League Soccer finally came to town on Sunday. But more importantly, though, on Sunday, the new kids of the block, SDFC, traveled up Interstate 5 to Carson, California to take on the in-state rivals and the defending six-time MLS Cup champion LA Galaxy on a very beautiful Sunday evening up in Carson for a 4 o'clock kickoff. By the way, folks, before I get into the nitty-gritty, major thank you from all of us on behalf of all of the San Diego Independent Supporters Group and Union. We had about 1,200 people on 12 buses go up from Snapdragon Stadium here in San Diego up to Carson for the match on Sunday. And it was awesome. Other than, some middle fingers that were shown between Galaxy fans and our fan base, no punches were thrown. Nothing bad happened on Sunday. Again, major props to the entire stadium staff from the LA County Sheriff's Department's office, all of the ushers that, again, helped to keep us safe while we were up there enjoying our first ever match, though, in Carson. But with that in mind, though, folks, with all the hullabaloo about SDFC, again, playing the defending champion, six-time champs, this and that, well, it was probably a day that anyone in MLS did not see coming. Let's just let the video do the talking, shall we? We'll let this replay for you real quick. 1 second. Mark it down, folks. Minute 52 of the second half of play. Anders Dreyer puts his name in the proverbial history books for San Diego FC after a horrible defensive breakdown by the Galaxy goalkeeper and their two defenders. The ball cranes free to Irving Chucky Lozano, who finds a wide open Anders Dreyer for the first ever goal in San Diego history in minute 52. That puts San Diego up 1-0 at over the champs. But that was not the last time that we would hear from Mr. Dreyer on the evening from DHSP up in Carson, California, because after a flurry of Galaxy chances late in the second half, Anders Dreyer called game. Here's a look. And yes, folks, somewhere in that sea of humanity you see in sections 227 through 230 at DHSP in Carson is yours truly in studio, who made the trek up with all of my fellow hooligans with the SDISU. You probably can't see it, but I was out there doing the moonwalk. I was out there doing the running man after we went up 2-0 in the 93rd minute, though. And San Diego FC, probably in recent memory, pulling off arguably the biggest upset in MLS history. They become the third expansion team since 2017 to win their first ever match, and more importantly, doing so over the defending champions and starting off the new rivalry with the LA Galaxy on a +3 note. 2-0 San Diego winning over the Galaxy from a sold-out Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. Absolutely electric up there with all of our fellow supporters. And more importantly, first ever game, first ever win, you name it, San Diego wins it 2-0. Again, Anders Dreyer with the first 2 goals ever in club history. CJ Dos Santos pitching a clean sheet for San Diego in goal. And again, more importantly, though, folks, a day long that was long coming here in San Diego. Like I've said, though, folks, so many times or fairly recently, about the rich soccer history here in this market between the San Diego Toros starting it all off back in 1968 at Balboa Stadium, into the Jaws coming here in 74, and then, of course, the Sockers coming here in 78 in their run, though, with outdoor and indoor soccer. There's 16 championships across the indoor games for the Sockers. Then, of course, we have the San Diego Spirit come here following the craze of the 99 World Cup that, of course, was won by Team USA. And then now, of course, with San Diego Wave FC being here, the Sockers, and now, of course, with SDFC. And again, a market like San Diego, who has been long clamoring for top flight soccer like this, to finally have it come here after over a wait of 647 days, to be able to be a part of it, travel up to the first ever game. You know, I was telling a lot of people on the bus from the stadium down here to Carson is that we won't be able to experience this ever again. Like, you only can do the first game once and once only. And to be a part of it, though, to be wearing the Chrome E Azul, to be amongst about 1,200 other fans who went up on the trip, to be able to be a part of something this special, is memorable. And of course, to win it, to go there, win the match, and more importantly, do it though on the day that the Galaxy dropped the banner. They bring the MLS Cup out, all the hullabaloo about, San Diego and LA and this and that, though. And to spoil the party and grab all 3 points and to be a part of that experience, though, I was trying to think, though, when we were coming home last night after the game concluded, was about mainly how would, have I ever been a part of a first ever game like this, like a new team that comes to San Diego and starts fresh. I'm like, the only time I ever did was the Wave when they first came here. I was in my writer era, basically covering the Wave for the NWSL as a third-party outlet for the San Diego Sports Domination, led by my good man David Furker. And I covered their first season for its entirety, their first ever game, all the way through their home schedule and things like that. And I remember their first game so well because Alex Morgan scored all 4 goals against New York, New Jersey. And then I was also part of the first ever game for the Seals of the National Lacrosse League, covering their first ever game against Rochester in 2018, I believe. So this was the third time in my career that I was a part of a inaugural game in a inaugural season for a franchise, whether I was a fan or just, or even, freelance covering them. And I literally told everyone, like, I couldn't sleep the night because I was just so excited. Win, lose, or draw, you were a part of the first ever game that this club played in franchise history. Now, I can't make the first ever home game in club history on Saturday because I'm going to be at work on Saturday night when we play St. Louis. But the first ever game, home or away, first ever game. And to be able to see the new kids on the block go into the defending champ's house and knock them off the pedestal for the first time ever in franchise history, it absolutely incredible. Cinema, drama, theater, whatever you want to call it. But it was absolutely amazing, to be able to be a part of that experience. So again, a shout out again to, Chavos y Chavas de la Frontera, Bada 18, my group, the 18th Battalion, Dago Boys, all of our groups that went up there. It was also great, though, to see a lot of old faces, that I have known for a long time, who have been loyal soccer supporters, who, supported the Sockers or still do support the Sockers. They were big fans of San Diego, loyal of USL, who I think really helped lay a foundation for MLS to come to San Diego. I know it's not what it could have been or what it should have been, but they were a major part, though, of showing this market will support soccer, USL, or even MLS. It was cool to see so many familiar faces. My man Chris Garcia, Steve Brokoff, Eddie Lopez, our leader of our group. Adrian Waste. So many people who I have basically known for a long time via Sockers, via Loyal, via Wave, via Team USA, wherever my soccer walk of life has been. They have been, supporting soccer for a long time. They've been a very big advocate and supporter of my career. It was cool to be able to hang out with them for 90 minutes and, plus, meet new people, see old faces, and again, be a part of something as special as the first ever match for a brand new product here in my hometown of San Diego, California. And again, like I said before, to go to Carson, to go to LA County, to go to Dignity Health Sports Park and see the Phil Antridge Trophy be handed down from Kobe Jones, one of my favorite players of all time, Galaxy or not, to see him with the trophy, and all the pregame pageantry, see that banner get dropped, though. And at the end of the day, they'll look at that scoreboard when it reads 95-33, and it says San Diego 2, LA Galaxy 0, full time. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And also a major thank you to our front office with Jerry Jimenez and the team for, helping put together the trip. Again, it was great, though, to have all the groups come up there. Cool to see all the and more importantly, again, it's been cool, though, seeing how this community, folks, has rallied around this club, even before the team began play. Just more importantly about the craze about Major League Soccer being here. And I know I said this a lot, though, leading up to the season about this team joining MLS. And I know I say a lot about, how rich and deep that the sport is in San Diego. Again, our ties to Tijuana, Baja California, and the fact that we're going to be playing Club Tijuana, the Cholos, in September for a friendly exhibition. We're also going to be playing Club America as well for an exhibition game. And then we have 3 games with 3 top-notch Mexican Liga MX teams coming in August for the Leagues Cup tournament. That this market has long, I think, been not overlooked, though. It's always been on people's radar in the sport. Top 10 every year in World Cup viewing, top 10 for EPL, top 10 for Bundesliga, top 10 for Liga MX, top 10 for the sport in general. Whether our team is playing in it or not, or our country's playing it or not, people love the sport here in San Diego. And to have that rich history of, the Toros, the Sockers, the Jaws, the Loyal, the Spirit, the Wave, and now SDFC, it was only a matter of time, though. And now to be able to kind of in a way plant your flag now that, hey, we're here. We just put your league on notice. The new kids on the block went into your defending champs' house and simply owned them for 90 plus minutes. The thing, though, I was kind of wondering was like, I heard a lot about this too. How would a lot of these players, be able to play, though, under Mikey Vadas, their first-year head coach, which, by the way, major love and respect. Clap it up real quick for Coach Varas. When the team came out for warm-ups, because they the Galaxy had us set up in the upper level of the stadium, as you saw in those 2 video clips that the team and Sandra Sports Shots put out, that we had 3 sections in the upper level. Coach Varas, when he came out for warm-ups to start pregame training and pregame warm-ups, Coach Mike came all the way out from the locker room, and he applauded. He saluted. He gave the heart hands. Raised his fist in the air, and there's a very cool photo that the Galaxy, I think our photographer, Vicky Mercado, who's done a great job with the social media stuff, that I believe that Vicky had gotten. It was a very cool shot of Coach Varas with his back turned looking at us, and all you see, though, is a giant block of navy blue and white jerseys in the upper level, and you have him in the foreground. And I'm like, talk about a photo speaking 1,000 words. A community long looking for a second big four, big five sport. And it happens to be Major League Soccer, who's been wanting that to come to town. And now having the ownership in place and the stadium in place, now we, when I say we, I mean the citizens of San Diego, California, eighth largest eighth largest populated state in all of America, that we now have another major league sport on our radar, with a sport with deep ties to our local community and where we are on the map. That was a very picture speaks 1,000 words moment. And literally, though, when San Diego scored the first ever goal by Anders Dreyer, I literally felt the stadium shaking. It felt like there was an earthquake at DHSP on Sunday. It was a giant, concrete and steel wave reverberating and vibrating from everyone losing their minds. And when SD went up 2-0 with about 2.5 minutes left to go in the game, and Dreyer rings the crossbar and goes bar down and scores. And like I said, because I had spilt the soda from from supporters jumping up and down and chanting and whatnot. And literally I could feel my shoes being stuck to the ground, stuck to the metal bleachers. But being able, but again, just jumping around with my guys, Marco and AJ, that were right next to me. And again, they'd gotten the goal on video, and Brandon, a friend, one of my new friends, now again, new faces and old friends, guys who had gotten video of the goal, and you literally can see me turn around and just, woo, very loudly right at the camera. And then, like I said, I broke out a moonwalk. I broke out, a cabbage patch. I broke out dance moves because I just realized we're going to win this game. And again, we just went in here and punched the defending champions right in the mouth to say, we're not a rollover. We're not going to be a pushover. But more importantly, though, away from my experience, though, watching this match unfold, though, Mikey Varis and his team played a sensational 90 minutes. Absolutely incredible. The defense was on another level, blocking shots, interrupting passing lanes, and the counterattacks, though, in the offense, wow. Now, that will, of course, get scattered, though, as the year goes on, though. But for game one of a 34-game regular season, plus all the other in-season tournaments, though, pretty damn impressive for a brand new club just starting out to, again, walk to the front door of DHSP on Sunday and, again, punch the defending champions right in the mouth. Game one, match one of club history, and putting up 2 against the Galaxy. Again, SDFC is at home on Saturday to take on St. Louis. So the most recent expansion team in St. Louis plays the New Kids on the Block in San Diego, California on Saturday. With that, folks, sadly, James is out for the rest of the night due to faulty internet, so we'll hopefully regroup with him next Monday. But with that, folks, we will not go off the board tonight because James is not here for the evening. Want to, in a quick shout real quick to Casey King, he says, wow, nice win by San Diego, getting a big win over the Galaxy. Yeah, Casey. I think just more importantly, it was more of like a statement of like, we may be an expansion team, but hey, we're here to stay now. Like, our time of waiting has come and gone. Now we are here. The chant of, one of the chants we had is, San Diego Football Club, or San Diego, we are here. Case in point, 1-2, Anders Dreyer, a 1-2 combo knocked out the Galaxy for the first time ever. Can also real quick though, as a sidebar here before we sign off for the night, a thing to watch, kind of in a way, in Major League Soccer, is these rivalries. Now, obviously, LA, San Diego will have one eventually with both LAFC and the Galaxy. I did though see something today though that was put out by one of our supporters, the Riptides, one of our supporter groups. Matt Boozy had sent me something caught my eye from their social channels. They are working right now, much like college football. MLS has their derbies or their rivalries where you play for a trophy. So right now, to help kind of in a way get the ball rolling here, San Diego FC's supporters, including myself and the Riptides, one of our groups, we are right now working on a 4-way trophy for the El Camino Real Trophy between all 4 of our clubs in California: San Diego, the Galaxy, LAFC, and then the San Jose Earthquakes. You folks, if you would like to, you don't have to have any ties to California or soccer in general, but you can go to El Camino Real Trophy. So that's ELCAMINO, and then Real, REAL, trophy.com. And you can learn a bit more about what we're trying to do here. So based off of the games that are played between the 4 teams, so San Diego versus LA, San Diego versus LAFC, San Diego versus San Jose, the team with the most points amongst the 4 teams will win the El Camino Real Trophy, which will be a mission bell. You can submit your ideas for the trophy, the design of it, the logo even, to info@elcaminorealtrophy.com. And this, I think, folks, is a very cool thing to start doing, because now that SDFC is officially here, you can start kind of talking about rivalries. It's actually kind of funny. I wanted the rivalry between San Diego and the Quakes to be named the El Camino Real rivalry, because that is already a name for SDSU playing San Jose State. But again, if you want to check that out, you can do so. But I thought it was very cool, though, that now after game 1, here we are now beginning to forge rivalries, but also it's also a way, though, folks, despite on the field, though, and hey, screw Carson, screw San Diego, screw LA, screw San Jose. This is also done, though, folks, in good faith. This is put forth by all of the, rowdies, the supporters that you saw, though, all of us jumping up and down, waving the scarves and the flags, though. This is a way, though, for us to build community and continuity in a camaraderie between all 4 franchises because of this trophy. There's a board in place for the trophy, like an executive board of all 4 teams. This kind of throwing the olive branch out there to our friends with LAFC, the Galaxy, and with the Quakes. You have a seat at the table to talk about this. But again, follow, though, I believe it's at Riptides Club, riptides.club, and they will have more info about the potential rivalry between San Diego, LA, and San Jose. But I think it's a very cool thing, though, that they're working on here to, again, add some added drama, but also in a way bring supporters of all 4 teams together, though, in a good way to, again, foster good faith, good camaraderie and stuff, though, away from the fields of play, though. So I thought it was cool, though, and I wanted to bring it up and kind of begin to advertise a little bit here for one of my groups here in San Diego. All right, gang, great show tonight. Again, thanks for hanging out with us here tonight. Big thanks to Brent and Casey for hopping on board. For my great co-host, folks, James Gonzales, yours truly, Cal McClurg, saying good night or good morning here from San Diego. We'll see you folks back here in a week's time, back here on March 3rd, back here at 10 o'clock on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, folks. Till next time, have a great night. We'll see you then next week. Till then, have a good one. Bye-bye.